All right, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Mat on May 11th, 2022. We are going to be here doing a little WWE Week in Review here with Kyle tonight. It's a week of Backlash, and we are going to look into what's going on overall in the WWE. We also had some news breaking over the weekend about Roman Reigns and a couple returns this week that seemed pretty exciting. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my humble co-host here, Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing so much better. I was a little under the weather the last few days, but I'm finally up on the upswing, and it feels great to be back.
I'm glad to hear you're feeling better, buddy. So what do you think of everything this week overall before we really dive into it?
Man, that was an excellent episode of Raw. We got so many storylines at Advance. We got a lot of great action in the ring. So, yeah, a lot of great stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that we're finally getting our feet planted in the ground, or at least WWE's doing so, and they're getting us somewhere that looks exciting. Again, that's the second pay-per-view in a row that's been exciting. It was WrestleMania Backlash. Obviously, WrestleMania is going to be exciting in and of itself, hopefully. And, we had some good matches. Yeah, before we get into the news and things that happened on Raw, we probably won't touch too much on SmackDown because we looked a lot into that when we were previewing Backlash. Let's do some match ratings for the matches at Backlash. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's start out with the match that started out the show, and that was Cody and Seth. I thought this was a good match. I thought the psychology was there. You could tell they've been working together, gaining some chemistry. And we also noticed that the finish ended in a roll-up, which a lot of people don't like, but I feel like the psychology of the story was something that was conducive to allowing a roll-up to be excusable here. Excellent work between the two men. We had Seth trying to cheat after his O'Connor roll of Cody Rhodes to finish out the match, and Cody said, "The hell with that, I'm going to do it to you." And so he pulled the tights on the O'Connor roll and ended up getting the 3 count for the win. At the end of the day, I don't really like roll-up. I think they could have found a better way to finish that match, but it feeds the story. It gives Seth a claim that he wants another rematch. We can see it going there. And overall, I think I gave this match 4 stars out of 5. What do you think overall, star-wise, and just how they did?
Well, for me, actually, it was pretty easy to give it a 5-star. I absolutely love this match. I think it had great everything. I know you're not a huge fan of the end, but I do like the roll-up when it's used properly. And I feel like this is definitely the proper use of a roll-up. When you have Seth trying to do the roll-up on Cody first and pulling on the tights, and Cody, and the whole match you've been telling this story of, I'm countering you, I'm countering you, I'm countering you. Well, then this was Cody's counter to Seth, and I thought it was actually a great ending. The match had great spots. The match had great chemistry between these two. Honestly, I'd be all right with 5 matches between these two guys. They're awesome. And the psychology is great, too. The story that they told from beginning to end, 5 stars for me.
I agree that it was a great match, man. And don't get it twisted. I wasn't too upset with the finish. I just know that, generally speaking, the community always sort of, craps on roll-up finishes and thinks that it's a cheap out to a match and a cheap way to protect a guy. And I don't think that was the case here. They weren't trying to protect anybody or make anybody look stupid. It's not like Rollins looked stupid because he got rolled up. Or even if Cody would have gotten pinned in that situation, he wouldn't have looked stupid because we know that Seth Rollins pulled the tights and tried to cheat to win the match. So I think that was a good wrinkle to the story. And they're always coming up with these wrinkles that I don't see coming, and I think it works. The roll-up, pull the tights, finish here works. Gives us, like you said, a way to get to another match. It gives Seth Rollins something to be pissed off about, and we could see them wrestle 1,000 times on television, especially on pay-per-view if they're going to do the way that they have been, and I'd be totally happy with it. So I'm with you on giving it a favorable rating. I just, I'm not going to say that it was a 5-star just because when I do see a 5-star match, it may be better than that, and I don't want to bastardize the 5-star rating, I guess. I don't know.
For sure. Obviously, there's a little bit of subjective opinion involved too, because Seth freaking Rollins is my favorite wrestler, and so that heavily skews my judgment of the match. Plus, Cody is really growing on me. He wasn't really like my favorite coming in. I was excited to see him coming back, but I wasn't necessarily a Cody Rhodes fan. But the way that they've been building him has been great, and his matches with Seth have been great. So he's really grown on me too. And so I'm really enjoying both of these guys, but Seth is my favorite. So that does, bump my score up a little bit.
Yeah, so we also had Omas and Lashley here. This match I felt was better than the WrestleMania match, better than really anything Omas has ever done.
Yep.
But at the same time, it has a ceiling. You can't just, we do grade it on a curve. Obviously, it's subjective, just like you say. The people in the match have to be considered here. But if I'm just grading it as a match itself, I'm going to say that the match, given the competitors involved and what they could do the time they were given, I would give them 3 1/4 stars out of 5. I think that they delivered something that was better than we thought. The story was there. Omas did more than he could, but they need to keep him in a situation where he's always on the offense. When he's with Lashley, he's got to do too much defense, too much selling, and I think that exposes him. And there was several clunky spots in this match. And I just think that it needed to be a little bit cleaner to get any. I think I'm being generous with the 3 1/4 stars, to be honest with you. But I'm doing that because of the fact that we haven't seen really anything of note from Omas other than if you've been to a live event and seen him wrestle somebody like Reggie. And so not having like a big spot for Lashley to, hit us even a spine buster on him or some kind of body slam or snap suplex. The fact that he didn't get that spot in and we had interference that was very predictable by MVP ending it was just a little bit, to me, what brought it down, as well as just the fact that it was an Omas match. I mean, it's not going to be a 5-star match if he's in there.
No, and I think the word that you used, limited, that's a great word for it. Omas is very limited. And also the way that you fight either with a big guy or a big guy fights with you, it really has to be changed. But Bobby Lashley is not used to fighting somebody that's bigger than him. So when he was punching upwards at Omas, it wasn't as realistic looking as it would be as if he was punching straight or down to somebody that's smaller than him, which is his usual look. So it's difficult to get people that can punch up towards Omas and make it look realistic. I think Bobby Lashley's just not used to that because he's usually bigger than everybody else. But he did a good job for his part, and I think Omas did a good job considering his size limitations. The other thing is, as far as limitations go, is because the dude is so tall, he gets across the ring in 1 to 2 steps. So in order for him to look like he's running or he's like trying to charge up his speed and gain some speed, it doesn't look great because he gets these little baby steps in, or he takes one big step and he's already across the ring. So there's some limitations that way too to help with his speed. It really slows him down in the ring. It looks slower. So to me it was an okay match. I think they did well with what they had. I think I agree with you as it being predictable. I had a little bit lower score. For me, it was 2.75 stars. Very specific score. But I look at the 2.5 mark as the middle point. And as the middle point grade, I would say was the match good enough to make me not hate it? And was it not bad enough to make me love it? And that's kind of where the middle point is. This is just above that. There was just a couple things that I liked to make it a little bit better than mediocre, but I'd put it right about in the middle for me. 2.75.
Yep, I don't disagree too much at all, man. If you got 2 3/4 on that one, the only reason I go over 3 is just because of the fact that we had some storyline advancement. This whole thing's really about MVP and Lashley, which I don't even know if any of us want to see MVP and Lashley in the ring together, mainly because it'd be strange to see MVP return to the ring, especially after all these years as being such a great manager for the heels. But we do know that this is going to continue. We know that Omas and Lashley are going to be in a cage match next week on Raw. And good on WWE for putting that on Raw rather than saving it for Hell in a Cell, because I don't think we need to have another premium live event match between these two. It's a good spotlight for Omas to be in and a good way to, proceed the storyline between MVP and Lashley. But other than that, lots of spots, like you said, where it's just his long stride leads to very slow moving spots that it's almost like watching in slow motion. There was a spot where Lashley went for a spear, and I don't think that Omas was in the right spot, and he ended up just shouldering him in the back. I think there's quite a few things like that happen in his matches. When he got caught in the ropes, I don't even know if that was supposed to happen. It looked like he was supposed to be getting clotheslined out of the ring, and they botched that, and he ended up getting stuck. But whatever happened, they played it off well. Both agree.
Yeah, and I don't want to completely crap on Omas, because I think his facial expressions was a lot better in this match. I think his selling was better overall than I've seen in the past. So I saw some improvements for sure.
Yeah, and I think overridingly, if we say that him being with MVP has been an improvement versus him without him, then it's a step in the right direction. It was what it was, and I think that's that with that one. I don't think there's much we can really, what are you going to do? Let Bobby Lashley with Omas. So, next up we had Edge and AJ Styles. This match was very good as well. A typical sort of slow-paced Edge match, especially to start off. And we ended up having the reveal of the Judgment Day third member at the end of it. We also had Damien Priest come in, who was barred from ringside, basically be at ringside or get pushed into ringside by Finn Balor. The referee had no idea what the hell was going on. Now, that stuff has nothing to do with the meat of the match. The meat of the match, to me, was good. It was better than their Mania match. I think that they both worked hard. It really honestly seemed like in a lot of these matches, like this one, the Cody-Seth match, the Flair match, it seemed like they might have been a little bit rushed and that they didn't sell for as long as they normally would. But that being said, the psychology was great. Ed's heel psychology is second to none that I've seen in a long time. The way that he locked in that crossface and pulled AJ's hair back so you could see him grimacing in pain to finish that one.
Was so good.
Now, I don't know that I like the idea of AJ Styles passing out to finish the match, or the idea of AJ Styles being completely freaking distracted by the fact that Damien Priest is standing in the aisleway, or that I like the fact that we had Finn Balor do the run-in, and that result, it should have been DQ'd right there. But regardless, we had the hooded figure bring down AJ from the top. I gave this match 3 3/4 stars. The only reason why I made it less is because we had interference in it. I probably would have went 4.5 out of 5, but we had interference, and we just had a couple spots that I think they missed in. But I can't put it on the same level as Cody and Seth. So 3 3/4 is mine. What's yours?
I went a little bit higher. I actually went up to the 4.25 mark, 4.25 for this rating. Both these guys are awesome. I do agree that there was a little underselling, but not much, just a little bit. And it did feel like they were trying to get to the end, but I think it was because they had so many of those spots that they wanted at the end with so many people rushing in. So they had to get to that. I actually really liked the interference, the way they did it. I did find it silly that Damien Priest came so far down the ramp, and then he's pointing at the line oh, no, I'm not crossing this line. But I think if he's not supposed to be near the ring, then he should be at the top of the ramp if they're going to play this distraction game with him. But I did like the way that wasn't the actual distraction, but the actual interference was when Rhea Ripley came out and did her part. And to me, that moment with Rhea Ripley was the best spot or the best moment of the entire show. I enjoyed that the most. When she turned around and flipped that hoodie back, and she had that dark black hair slicked back that way, and she had that look on her face, that was amazing. That's the best acting that I've ever seen Rhea Ripley do, and that had me pop bigger than any other moment. So that made my score go up, because I kind of involve it with the match itself. You know, without that, the match isn't as good. So yeah, I gave it a 4.25. I thought it was great. These guys are so good to work with each other. They know what they're doing. I love how he was working AJ's arm throughout the whole thing. Almost every single move that Edge was doing was an attack of AJ's arm or his shoulder. And that, like you said, that's great heel psychology. That's just great in-ring psychology in general. You know, like you're telling a story. The story is AJ's shoulder was hurt coming in, and so Edge is going to take advantage of that and attack it any which way he can. So I loved it. 4.25 for me. Plus, the Judgment Day is very over on me, so that helped get the score up too.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely a very good match. The Rhea Ripley reveal was definitely a huge high point of the night. Definitely something that was very welcome from all of us. At least all of us that wanted to see Ripley make some kind of heel turn and push in the singles ladies category, which she would need to do as a heel. She can't do it as a baby face because Bianca Belaire is the face of the freaking company right now. Love it or hate it, I'm okay with it. And we need a heel to go after her. We've seen them tease a lot. So, you know, we'll get into that later. We'll move on to the women's SmackDown title match.
One last thing about that last match, too. AJ being basically passing out. I think that was a way to save him, to save face. Because you can't have him tap. Yeah, I feel like he's just too good to tap to Edge in this match. So now they can say, or AJ can say, no, I never tapped, I never gave up. You know, I just happened to pass out because you were pulling on my shoulder. So I think that was a way of WWE kind of saving face for AJ.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I just think that with all of it said and done, with the interference and the hooded figure and all that, and it, you know, being something that's quite common for Judgment Day to have this interference be what ends their matches, and for it to then end with the crippler crossface, which basically passes out AJ Styles. It could have ended with Edge hitting a spear, something like that. But regardless, man, you know, we're splitting hairs here. It was a great match, great in-ring psychology. I only gave it 3.75 because I'm grading it a little bit harsher than you are. I think we both agree that this was one of the better showings of the night, and certainly well worth it. So, you know, moving on to the SmackDown Women's Title I Quit match, we had Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair. Up until this match, it's been a brutally boring feud. It was very boring heading into WrestleMania. You know, I'm sure there's some people who have been excited to see Ronda Rousey. I haven't been, just because it doesn't seem like she's been excited to be there. However, they did everything they could going into Backlash to cater this better, to position Rousey as the incoming babyface champion. They had Drew Gulak do the stuff he did to sort of be a buffer for their promos and make things a little bit entertaining going into it. They made it an I Quit match to keep Ronda out of the ring and using weapons, which is probably her strong suit at this point, considering that she really was only a professional wrestler for 1 year at the time that she was there before when she debuted, and then is now back. She's not really ready to carry an entire match in the ring. That's why they had her do the tag match at the Elimination Chamber. I mean, sure, she's wrestled some dark matches, might be doing some house shows. I don't know. I haven't seen her really on the house loop. So she's got a little bit of ring rust, and putting her in the I Quit match was a great vehicle to get her over as the babyface champion and put down one of the top heels in the game. And she did just that. I thought this was a good match. Well worked by both ladies. Having two ladies in an I Quit match is something that is honestly a little bit dangerous, because you never know if they're going to be able to get the brutality out of it that you want to see in an I Quit match. And it's two ladies. And as a man, I don't want to see two ladies getting hurt. Although it's very fun to watch two ladies beat the hell out of each other when you know that it's not real. So this was a fun match, man. They really pulled out all the stops that they could. Charlotte worked it really well. They used a lot of different way. They got through the crowd. They went up the railing. They had Rousey wrapped around the railing. They ended it with Charlotte getting her hand put through the chair. Charlotte ends up gaining a kayfabe injury of a broken radius, which is one of the bones in your wrist. That's a kayfabe injury. I'm stressing that because she's getting married to Andrade from AEW. And that's the reason why they're saying that injury, so they can write her off TV. Now, she very well may return to TV wearing a cast, but who the hell knows? And then we'll see on Instagram pictures of her at her wedding with no cast. But overall, I gave this match 4.25 stars, given the fact that it was two ladies doing an I Quit match, and it played out very well, made sense. And I'm honestly proud of both of them for doing it, because they've been crapped on so much for their feud. And after this, looking forward to seeing how creative WWE can be to make Ronda Rousey that appealing babyface champion, if that's what she's going to be. So what do you think for stars here?
Yeah, I was pretty close, actually. I was 4 stars out of 5. I thought it was a really good match. Like you said, both of them worked really well. Charlotte outsold Ronda, typical, because Charlotte's really good at her job. She can be a great seller when she chooses to be. I know sometimes she does not choose to sell, but Charlotte is a fantastic seller, especially like if you watch the beginning of the match, the first 3 minutes, she's doing such a good job of making everything Ronda does look just vicious, destructive. And when those kendo sticks come into play, it's less selling on Charlotte's part and more realism, because she tore her up with those kendo sticks. It was vicious. Charlotte had bruises and cuts all over her body. You could see it. It was like, it's right there in front of you. There was no faking it. So it was very stiff, as I like to say, meaning the shots were a little bit more real, like the punches and the kicks were a little bit more realistic. Maybe they were actually laying into each other, because I don't think they in real life like each other that much outside of their characters, and I don't think they like each other in real life either. So you could see that in their match. I thought the I Quit match was a good scenario for these guys too, because it's hard to see either of them saying I quit. Both of their characters are so strong that it's really difficult to see any of them say that. But that ending with getting Charlotte's arm caught in the chair was brilliant by Ronda. And then when she asks her if she wants to quit, and she says, I was hoping you'd say that, bitch, and then pulls her arm back some more. That was really good. I liked that. That is the best promo that Ronda's ever given in her entire life, was that one line right there. Like, I swear, best thing ever. So I enjoyed it a lot. I thought maybe there'd be some crazy Drew Gulak involvement or something, but I'm glad that they didn't have any of that going on. It didn't need it. It really didn't. Both of them did a great job. Then the one spot that you pointed out, but I want to make sure I pointed out too, was another one of my highlights of the entire show, when they were fighting in the audience, and Charlotte got Ronda's body twisted up in the handrail on the steps between the audience. And the way that she was pulling her and torquing her body around it, it looked really good. I don't know what it felt like in the crowd there, but it was probably really cool to be part of that as well. I miss the WWE spilling into the crowd like they used to back in the Attitude Era. It seemed like every match spilled into the crowd back then, so I'm used to that. I really enjoy that. I would like more matches that spill into the crowd. But so I'm glad that they had that spot, and it makes sense when you have a match with no rules. Go out into the audience and use some of the structures and use some of the weapons and make it crazy. And they both made it crazy. So yeah, 4 stars. Very good match.
Yep. Good match, man. Good use of the things that they had at their disposal, and a great way to actually make Ronda Rousey look strong here. And Charlotte looks strong, even though she lost. And, we move on. We'll see how Ronda does as the champion. Next up, we had Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. Happy Corbin dressed in a Hawaiian shirt, which has to be difficult to wrestle in.
And a new hat, too.
That's right. And then we got, Madcap wearing his normal getup. So that's a little bit strange seeing them. But if I can get past the uniforms or the gear that they're wearing, I actually thought that they put forth a good effort. Was it great? No. But it was probably the best match Madcap has had. Best thing that Corbin could get out of him. I thought Corbin did well here. I was expecting an end of days. It didn't happen. Ended with the sunset flip pin by Madcap Moss. It went about 10 minutes. It didn't go any... It shouldn't have gone any longer than that. If it did, it would have been too much. I think they made good use of their time. Wasn't perfect, but given the fact that these are two guys that we haven't really seen go up against each other, and we really haven't seen Madcap be pushed as a babyface, I gave this one 3.25 stars.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I went 3. It was okay. It was a little bit better than the Omas and Bobby Lashley match, just because these wrestlers are more capable of doing more things. Plus, I enjoy more. I like spots where there's a lot of speed involved. I like matches to go fast, slow, fast. Show me a little bit of change of pace, and they did that here. You have Madcap, who flies around the ring like a madman, and you've got Happy Corbin that slows things down and he's a little bit more punishing. So that mix of style was a good clash. The ending with a roll-up, I know it was a sunset flip, but it's still a roll-up win. And it was weird to me because they have had roll-up wins already, and I'm like, why does this one have to be? But I guess the reasoning would be that they're really just trying to set up a long-time feud between these two, and the first match of a feud often starts with a roll-up just so there's reason for them to fight again. So I guess I get it from that angle, but I wasn't a huge fan of this roll-up finish. I feel like you could have had either of them get the pin and have both of them go over more. Because you could have used it to the character's advantage. But I feel like a roll-up is just weird if you're trying to get Madcap to be this awesome babyface now. The roll-up seemed weird to me. But it was okay. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Some decent moves in there. I liked the senton bomb that Happy Corbin laid on Madcap. That was new in his arsenal, so that was cool. And he makes that what is the spin grab move he does?
Deep six.
The deep six, thank you. He makes the deep six look very good. I like that move a lot. So that was fun to watch.
Pat McAfee loves the deep six. Did you hear him?
He does.
The deep six. Oh my God. But yeah,
he's crazy about it. It's a good looking move for sure. And I don't see anybody else doing it. Do you see anybody else doing that?
No, he's like the only guy that does the deep six right now. He does it really well, man, and he always does it in a really, really, really like good transitional point of the match.
Yeah.
Neither one of them hit their finishers. Madcap went for the punchline at one point. Corbin looked like he was going for end of days, but ended up just slamming Madcap on the ground. Sunset flip power bombs or sunset flip roll ups to me are different than a schoolboy from behind roll up, and an O'Connor roll's different than a roll up. It's still a roll up, I get it. But if somebody does it in the fashion of like a crucifix or a sunset flip, sometimes I can excuse it. I think in this instance, what they were going for was, nothing's really putting Corbin away. Madcap's fighting from underneath here using his speed, and he caught Corbin with a fast one with the sunset flip. If it was a sunset flip power bomb out of the corner into a pinning combination, it's a totally different story. Then we're looking at a nice looking move and a stack pin. But because it's just a sunset flip off of running the ropes into a pinning combination, it feels a little bit cheaper, I think. So, yeah. I don't know.
I frankly, if it's going to be a roll-up win, I would actually have the heel do it. And I would make it look like a very sneaky, smart move on the heel's part. That's a good way to get heat on the heels if they get the one over on your babyface. So I felt like if you're going to do the roll-up, let Corbin get the roll-up win. But, whatever. I'll tell you what, it's better, and I know a lot of people listening might hate this statement, but it's better than Xavier Woods winning with the backwoods several weeks in a row. I don't like that.
Not only that, Xavier Woods claiming the backwoods is his move or his finishing move or whatever. It's just, that's not something that's endearing to fans as a babyface.
It's childish.
And I'll tell you, like, I'm not somebody that hates the New Day. Do I feel like their feuds get old because they always put them against the same people? Yes. Do I find some of the things they do to be annoying as a 34-year-old man? Sure. But I'm at a lot of shows and a lot of people, like, they're still over with the fans. So I'm not going to sit here and, I'm not going to crap on the New Day or Woods or Kingston. Certainly not Big E. I've always liked him. But at the same time, let's get serious, guys. I mean, like, do something else besides the backwood, especially because you're supposed to be an act that appeals to children, and a backwoods is a blunt. We all know what a backwoods is.
Exactly. He's supposed to be a king. They completely dropped that whole thing. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just saying, like, his character has no strengths to it at all.
Yep. So hopefully we see them do something with that because, like I said, they're over, so they're worth pushing in some degree. Regardless if we like them or not, or the next guy likes them or not, a lot of people do. So they need some kind of, formidable push that means something, or they're kind of just hanging around for no reason. And, we're getting way too in the weeds with the New Day here. But at the same time, we need to see something materialize because they do put on good matches when they want to. Even the table matches that they did, the table match they did with Sheamus the other night was outstanding. Kofi Kingston
that was good.
Fired up. He was jumping off the freaking top rope, flying into the timekeeper's area, clearing off the announce desk, going nuts. Then Butch came out of the ring. So, that was a fun match, and I felt like the New Day was a big part of that. We've seen him do those tag matches with Lotharios, who quite frankly are, in my opinion, a decent tag team, but haven't been pushed well at all. And they got a lot out of them. So I think that New Day can do good things, but when they get booked into a corner with Fight Night for 2 months, 3 months, everything gets annoying,
Yeah, it's really booking. If you take the wrestlers individually, they're excellent. If you take the tag teams individually, they're excellent. But it's the booking. It makes no sense to see this over and over again between them, and it's the same thing with the rest of the tag team. They don't know how to book their tag teams very well. Everybody's been saying it for years. They're not a tag team show. They're more about their singles, so the tag teams take a back seat to it. But anyways, back to Happy Corbin and Madcap Boss. I thought that match was a good setup match for the 6-man tag because I felt like it was a little bit of a lull match compared to the others. So I thought it was a decent match to put right before the 6-man tag team.
Yeah, it was. It was a good sort of, let me up segment. They knew that this was probably a match where people that had been sitting there for 2 hours were going to go to the bathroom or the concessions, whatever they do. At the same time, it wasn't that long. And in between this match and the main event, they had about 19 or 20 minutes of video packages, which you can say what you want about. But I know for a fact that there's certain people who complain about video package, but damn sure need to watch them because they don't even know what's going on in the match because they didn't watch the video package or didn't watch Raw. And I'm not referring to anybody specifically, but we both know what I'm talking about. There's people that complain about the video packages, and then it includes some detail about the match, and then they start asking questions about that detail of the match. And it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe the video packages are for somebody like you who doesn't necessarily have the time to invest in remembering every damn thing about what happens on SmackDown and Raw, and they're letting us know what the hell's happened going into this match. So now,
and I've been a culprit too of complaining about the recaps and the video packages, but the time that I complain about it is when I've seen the same recap 4 times in one episode. That's when I think it's too much. I don't need to see the same exact video recap of one match 3 times an entire episode. That's it. But I want to say Backlash actually did a good job of not shoving it down our throats during the entire show.
I thought Backlash was good with it. I mean, yeah, 20 minutes long is a long time, especially for the people in the arena to wait. But like I said, that's coming on the heels of the Happy Corbin match. You're getting people ready for this main event. You got people, I know when I go to live events, one of the things that they have now is you order your merch on your phone, and then you go and pick it up, and they have it ready for you. And a lot of people do that. Like right before the main event, when they know they have time to do that, they go and do that. People got to go to the bathroom. I doubt that many people were taking a break for Flair and Rousey or Edge and Styles, maybe for Lashley and Omas, but given the introduction that Lashley's getting, looking like a freaking hero, getting introduced to these things with his podium and his drumline intro before his almighty music starts.
Get those big timpani in there. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and on top of that, Omas is an attraction. There's, genuinely people that are in the arena that are like, holy crap, look at that big motherfucker. What is going to happen?
He still gets eyeballs.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if Omas wasn't there and Lashley was in the ring with Cedric Alexander, I'd be like, holy shit, look at that big motherfucker. What is he going to do?
Yep.
Same when I see Brock Lesnar. Holy crap, Godzilla's on the what is happening here? So I think that the crowd at this point, maybe could have used a 20-minute break. The thing that sucks for people that watch it on Peacock is that if you don't have the premium version of Peacock, those video packages are freaking insurance company ads and whatever else, a Colgate commercial, where if you have the Peacock Premium, you're getting all the video packages, which, like you said, are repetitive when they do it on television shows because it just feels like filler. We need SmackDown and Raw to not have the recap packages and just bulldoze through storyline development, because if you're addressing a story that night, there's no reason to recap it. There isn't. Let commentary talk about something. Maybe show a replay real quick of what happened if you need to. But there's, we don't need, if there's not a match for something tonight, why the hell are we seeing a match flow about it?
Right. Like, we're going to talk about the Raw episode from Monday in a second here. But even on that, they started with the 6-man tag team recap on the show. And then they went into the RK Bro promo, right? But they didn't show another recap of that until the very end of the entire show. So that's what I'm talking about. Is like, as long as you're not shoving it down my throat 3 or 4 times an episode, I'm okay with it. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's all good. So speaking of things that make sense or don't make sense, we had the tag team RK Bro and McIntyre versus the Bloodline, 6-man tag team, I should say. This match was the main event. I thought this was actually the best worked match of the night, and it belonged in the main event. Did not have the finish I was expecting, but it doesn't matter what I'm expecting. What matters is that the 6 men worked their ass off here. They all came off as stars. Riddle got a huge moment at the end. Jey Uso got a huge moment. Jimmy did a lot of work in this match. We saw Roman get RKO'd and Claymored. He basically was beat on 2 separate occasions, if not for the Usos saving him. And on the flip side of that, RK Bro had the Usos beat several times, if not for Roman Reigns saving him. And it took the Tribal Chief coming in there and folding Riddle in half like a cheap lawn chair to be able to win the match. That being said, I gave this match 4.5 stars.
I'm right there with you. 4.5 is perfect. It was almost a 5-star match. I'll go over the negatives first as why it's not a 5. But there was a couple sloppy spots, and sometimes that happens when you have so many people involved with a match. You've got so many people running in and out and hitting a move and then having to roll out of the ring so they can do another move with a different group of people in the ring. And sometimes people are on the outside and you don't know what's going on with them. So just a little bit of slop involved, not much, just a little. And then my other negative is that there was a few spots that we've already seen a few times between these teams. But overall, there was a lot of new stuff too. I liked that the match in the first half was a lot more action and a lot more mayhem and craziness and people running around and getting a bunch of moves off each other. And it was almost like a spot fest in the first half. Tons of great spots. And then it slowed down about halfway through, and then they started telling you the story. And that's where the psychology was fantastic in this. And you were talking about the way, or I want to specifically pull out one thing that I really liked psychology-wise. But as far as, like the way Randy got his RKO on Roman, and the Claymore got hit on Roman, and he was saved by the Usos both times. That's a great story, because what were they saying going in? You can't beat the bloodline because they're blood. They know if you go left, I go right. You go up, I go down. So they knew when to help Roman at the key times. It's a great story told in this match. And my favorite moment, and this is some good psychology by Roman Reigns here and Paul Heyman, is when Roman Reigns was first being asked to get tagged in, and the audience was going nuts. Everybody's like, yeah, get in there, get in the ring. And Roman's looking around, should I get in the ring? And Paul Heyman's trying to argue with him, saying, you don't have to go in there. You're the tribal chief. You don't need to do that. And he says, no, I want to go in. I want to go in. So he gets in the ring, right? And the audience pops. So they're like, yeah, he's in the ring. And you think you're going to see this great fight. And he slowly walks around the ring. He does a little circle inside the ring, eventually makes it back to his cousins, the Usos, and tags out. And the audience boos. And I love that. That is just fantastic heel psychology. That's the way to get the audience to hate you. You have to think to yourself, to be a good heel, what do people want? What do people like? I will do the opposite of that. So that was awesome. So, yeah, great match, 4.5, almost a 5-star match. Great performance by everybody involved. And like you said, Riddle got over a lot in this match, too. He got his spot, and I can't wait for RKO to break up. I hate to say that because I love them, but the only reason I say that is because I can't wait for Riddle to do his singles run as well.
Yep, same with me, man. I can't wait to see what happens with Riddle as a singles competitor. I can't wait to see if they got something in the pipeline for Orton and the Tribal Chief. And obviously, I can't wait to see Drew McIntyre get his day in the ring with Roman Reigns as well. Yeah, there was a couple clunky spots in this match, to be expected a little bit with the 6 men in there, but I thought that for a 6-man match, having 2 of your biggest stars in there and 2 of the best tag teams, if not the best tag teams you have in the match, Orton being a part of one who's also one of the biggest stars you have, and RK Bro is probably the most over thing they have right now.
Easily.
So having all that together, and Roman playing the heel perfectly. He's been doing this stuff in the dark matches at the house shows, trolling the crowd that way. He knows it works. He's really good at what he's doing. So yeah, that was a good match, good ending, good story about how basically you might be able to beat the bloodline if they're separated, but together they're almost unstoppable is probably where they were going with it. So, we didn't get to see.
Yeah, it makes sense. I thought maybe Paul Heyman would get in there with his patented, oops, I dropped my title in the middle of the ring and somebody's going to get hit in the head with it, but that didn't happen. They didn't need it. They really didn't need it.
Nah, we'll wait for a title match for that, but other than that, I'm just going to give the show overall my stars. I gave it a 4.25 star rating overall out of 5.
Yeah, I couldn't go too much further for that. If I didn't do the math, but if I'm just going off the top of my head, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5.
All right, so we're both in agreement that it was a decent pay-per-view. They delivered probably beyond our expectations, and more to come from them like this is a good thing.
And as far as expectations goes, you and I were talking before Backlash happened about the lack of women's wrestling on this. And I will say that they should have had some more. But I didn't miss it during the show. They did a great job. It was a great show. I didn't necessarily miss it. I was thinking about it during the show. I'm like, where's all these people that could have been on the show and they weren't? But they made up for it on Monday Night Raw. I think they advanced a lot of the women's storylines, and the women got a lot more time on Monday Night Raw, so I'm glad they did that. Because I remember before we went into that Backlash, you and I were like, where's all the women? And why is there only 6 matches? But for what they had, they did a great job.
Yep, I think they delivered what they needed to do with everything they had. You know, like I said, the matches during the week on Raw and SmackDown kind of highlighted everybody who wasn't on the show. So all in all, it was well delivered and well done by them. Moving on from that, we had a little bit of news over the weekend about Roman Reigns himself at a house show in Trenton. He was addressing the crowd, thanking them for everything, things like that, coming out of character, saying that he doesn't know really if he's going to be back there. Things may be changing, yada, yada, yada. This caused a boatload of speculation about, is he retiring? Is he going away? Is he going to Hollywood? Is he taking vacation? We knew that he was going to be renegotiating his contract at this time and ended up actually signing a new contract, I think Monday early, and included in this contract was a reduced workload for him. He's not going to be working as many house show dates as he did in the past, and not going to be working overseas as much as he did in the past, all in an effort to be more available to his family and also to be more available to do outside things such as Hollywood. But he's not going anywhere. There was even a report somewhere that he was going to be gone for the entire summer on hiatus, and there's been no follow-up validity to that at all. So if anybody's worried about that, please don't be until we get confirmation on it. We haven't gotten it. There's a lot of clickbait on this out there. So far, the most confirmed story so far is that a new deal's been signed, that he's going to have a reduced workload, and he's going to be factored into WWE for the foreseeable future. WWE creative tenured members of the team have even said that they have no plans to write him out of any kind of storylines, and he's very much a part of what they're building for the next calendar year leading into WrestleMania. So, that being the case, this promo in Trenton, what did you think about it? Do you think that he was posturing himself for the contract? Do you think that he was just doing this to let people know, since I'm not doing house shows, maybe I won't be here because they don't really run TV in Trenton?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to set a solid expectation for fans to understand that he's been doing these house shows for a really long time. But I think in order for him to be here for a much longer time, like WWE plans him being here for that long, then he needs to minimize his workload. And what I'm hoping this means that we get more of him on TV, because he won't be doing the house shows as much. I don't know. I'm probably getting my hopes up too much as far as that goes, but I'm okay with it only because he gave the fans the expectation of not having to see as much, rather than us not seeing him and then making up all of these reasons in our heads and all of these rumors out there as to why we're not seeing him so much. I mean, what happened after WrestleMania? Everybody thought he was injured, including myself, for like 2 weeks, because there was so much ambiguity about his status. So I kind of liked that he had just addressed it. He said, hey, look, don't... And he said, don't tell everybody, of course. Like, he tries to tell people to not share it, but you can't tell people to not share something on social media, because it's immediately going to be shared on social media. But anyways, I'm okay with it, and I hope it just means that we get to see him for a lot longer time. And I think they reiterated the length of his title run so far, and just before that 6-man tag team match, as well as the Usos tag team run. And I think they're going to go for that, at least the 1,000 days mark for him, if not further. I can't remember, what's John Cena's record for holding the title?
I
I
don't
can't
have it
remember
off
off the top of my head.
but
But anyways, I think they're trying to do that. I think they're trying to top it. I think they're trying to match that number and get past it before they start thinking about what Roman's going to do at the end of his career. So I think we got him for at least another 2 solid years of good Roman television.
yeah, I think we have him for a long time. You know, as a double champion, doing the house shows and stuff like that is something that, you know, you really had to appreciate out of your double champion. And really, to be honest with you, to expect him to keep doing this is kind of crazy and unrealistic.
Spoiled.
You know, Brock Lesnar didn't do all this work that he's doing. And I really think that the presentation of the bloodline coming out saying, acknowledge me every time, that takes 20 minutes out of the show that they can apply to other wrestlers, other storylines. So, not to say I hate him coming out, because I love it when he comes out. I think everybody loves when he comes out. But if he's off of TV a little bit more or if he's not on TV as much as he is, then that's more room for more growth at the top of the card or throughout the entire card. Also, him not working the house shows. You know, the house shows back in the day were like more of a vehicle for an attraction. You know, watch this house show, come see us at this house show, and then you'll see us on TV, or come to the house show to see a guy like The Undertaker that we don't put on TV because this is the only place you're going to see him. But all along, always the house shows have been all about doing things with the wrestlers and then working together to work out their matches and make their TV matches or their pay-per-view matches better than what they are. And so when you don't have Roman taking a 35-minute main event every house show, you now have another 35, 40 minutes you can allocate to 2 other matches maybe, and have 2 other guys working together to improve their game and improve their match layout and to entertain the fans. And also, house shows are where you sort of see people, if you're attending them, and fans start to catch on to stuff and want to see these things that we see at the house shows, and they eventually, if they go over well with the crowd, they get pushed. We all know Roman Reigns is already over with the crowd. We all know that he's, you know, going to work a good match with almost anybody because he's that experienced. So, opening the door for other people is not a bad thing at all, as much as it is a little bit scary to know that the best guy in the business right now may be in limbo. I don't think he is. I think everything's going to be fine. And, you know, we'll have him probably lose one of the titles soon, so that way when he does have to take, you know, little hiatuses here and there, there's always a title at the top of the card for the guys to fight over. So I don't see any problems either way. I think there's been a lot of quick clickbait here, and, you know, everything will be fine. I think the way that we're thinking about this is probably the best way to.
Yeah, you got to think of it positively. The man is doing what he knows is best for himself and for the company and for us. Really, that's really the way you have to look at it. So, overall, good news for me.
All right, so we had a little bit more news this week just on the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Cody Rhodes did a commercial where he said that the winner of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view would earn a main event spot at WrestleMania. There's been heavily rumored speculation around the Money in the Bank rules, or the, you know, whatever the hell the Money in the Bank is supposed to represent. I know what it represents, but what they're going to make it represent is supposed to change, or at least that's a rumor. Do you see it changing? Do you see it change for the better? And before I ask you, I'll answer it myself. I think that if they are changing what they're doing, it's not a bad thing. They've been doing the same thing with Money in the Bank ever since it started. Somebody wins the Money in the Bank match. It's always a pretty exciting match. They get the cash in. The cash in's exciting. It's usually somebody that the fans want to have a title shot, but they don't in storyline really get it. And there's somebody who's sort of being pushed by the hardcore fans. They do the exciting cash in. They win the championship. And then after they win the championship, more often than not, their championship run lasts about a month or two and it's over. So just case in point, Big E this past year. And say what you want about everything that led to Big E losing, maybe Roman getting COVID, forced them to have Big E get put down by Brock Lesnar at day one. I have no idea. But, over the years, there's been, The Miz cashes in for Money in the Bank, wins the title. It lasts about a day. Dolph Ziggler cashes in, and those were great cash-ins, man. They were great moments. We had the awesome Seth Rollins one where he came into Reigns and Lesnar's match back at WrestleMania several years ago. But I think that the current way that the Money in the Bank is structured has run its course, and what they're trying to do is change Money in the Bank to something that's almost like a title in and of itself. And you continue to feud over that. Maybe you have somebody win the Money in the Bank in a fucked up way, and that Money in the Bank briefcase now becomes something that you can put on the line and have more storylines over. And it also gives WWE an out. If they decide the winner is not worthy of a title shot, they can have somebody else beat them for it. So I don't know, man. Now, I say all that, not even knowing whether or not they're changing it or not. I just think that I've heard rumblings of it, and I've heard rumblings of being it that way. Like, I've heard somebody say that it's going to change to where the winner of the briefcase can't cash it in until after the Rumble winner declares. So you're holding on to a briefcase for 8 months. Now, that part of it is pretty asinine to me. But if they make it something where there's feuds over it, I think it's a good thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm okay with change. I'm okay with evolving, especially in sports entertainment. I think you need it. I think it's necessary. And as far as the premium live events go, they're very cyclical. They're on a calendar. You can expect it. I'm okay with them changing up formats of their PLEs because that's what I'm used to. It's what I grew up on. It seemed like there'd be a new pay-per-view named every year or two, and then it would die. It would go away after a few years, or it could stick around. But the whole reason I'm saying that is because the pay-per-views came about in a storyline way. It was a natural just way that they could tell a story by naming the pay-per-view after what's going on in the story. Or if you want the story to revolve around the pay-per-view, you can do that as well. So Money in the Bank has a set format to it, and you can tell a story using that format. But if you change the format to fit your story, then it makes plenty of sense as well. If they want to do it where the winner of Money in a Bank gives you a different prize, that's totally fine with me. I'm okay with that. Evolving is great. And honestly, I feel like some of the premium live events, they're just doing them because it's what people expect. And it doesn't even have to do with the stories anymore. They just happen because they're on the calendar and they're going to happen. So I'm okay with them changing up the premium live events. And even if it's just little tweaks in, the way in the award you get on a Money in a Bank, that I'm okay with that. That's a good change for me. So I hope they do it, honestly. I'm good either way. They could keep it the way it is now because, like you said, Money in the Bank, it really produces a lot of great moments. WWE is all about their moments, right? That's what they say all the time. We're making great moments. So it makes sense to keep it the way it is, but I'd be all right with the change.
Yeah, I think, honestly, the change, in my opinion, would be definitely welcomed for me. Now, do I like the Money in the Bank cash-in moments that they've had? Absolutely. Is there somebody that I'd like to see do it now? Yeah. But then again, it's predictable for all of us to do that in the eyes of WWE. Yeah.
I knew it.
And like to me, you can't just sit here and be like, well, I always liked it when they did this, so they should keep doing. There's a reason why they evolve and change things. There's things they did in 1999 that I wish they still did, but they don't.
Hey, you're talking about Judgment Day,
Yeah, I mean, there's just it's circle of life, man, and you can't always be like, oh well, I wanted Money in the Bank to be this way, so that sucks that they're changing it. It's I mean, if you feel that way, that's how you feel. But in my opinion, with wrestling, they're always going to be looking for ways to change things and add different ways to make it more intriguing. And if this is a way to make Money in the Bank more intriguing, I'm fine with it. You know,
Yeah,
I do
exactly.
think that the whole cash-in thing with the surprise guy is honestly getting a little bit stale. And so if they do something that takes away the staleness of that, because honestly, man, like now we have people winning that Money in the Bank that don't even require a Money in the Bank briefcase to be entitled to a title shot. Like if Cody Rhodes wins it, is he really somebody that needs to have a briefcase to get a title shot?
Right.
If Lesnar wins it, does he really need a briefcase? If Orton wins it, does he really need it? Needs to be somebody who you don't think should earn the title. You know what I mean? It's just nobody there for that. And so I think if they have Cody win it, it can't just be the same thing, because then he's cashing it in a heel way. I have a feeling he's going to, if he wins, maybe they don't change the stipulation, but Cody Rhodes himself says, you know what, I want to save this for WrestleMania. And then they're like, okay,
That's
well,
true.
And then maybe certain people will say, okay, I'll face you for your briefcase. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of different ways they could go with it. It could be a hard set rule, or it could just be a different approach by whoever wins it this year. You never know. It is being held in a stadium outside this year, so they're trying to get a lot going into that show as they are the other stadium shows. So, you know, we'll see what happens. I think that's all we got to say about Money in the Bank, though. We really had we had a little bit of news over the weekend that is not worth getting into. Let's just get into Monday Night Raw. We had a lot of storyline progression. We'll start out.
Great show. Great show.
Good show this week, man. I mean, listen, a lot of matches ended in DQs. You know, people don't like DQs. People don't like roll-ups. Now, which one's worse? Because we had no roll-ups, but we had like 7 DQs. However, they all kind of made sense and fed the stories. Now, before we get into DQs, let's talk about a return of somebody who looked absolutely amazing, and that was Alexa Bliss. She came out with her old music, different presentation than the Fiend character. But then again, she still comes out with the Lily doll. So it's like, wait a minute. This confuses the hell out of me. What are they doing here? Are they changing her? Is she keeping the Lily doll? Is she still goth, or is she just hanging on to that doll because it's the one of the number one selling pieces of merchandise they have? And if so, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like Kane coming out after he changed to corporate Kane and just walking around with his mask in his hand.
Yeah.
You know,
it doesn't make any sense. You know, like when I was talking about change and evolving earlier, there's been a complete lack of change and involvement in Alexa Bliss's character, and I was kind of disappointed in her return. It was great to see her. Don't get me wrong, I like her. I want to see her, but they gave her no time to talk on the mic, so we got no promo. They gave her literally 2 offensive moves, and then she won the match, and then it was over. And then Sonya's on the side of the ring crying like a banshee, while Alexa Bliss is standing over her smiling. So it was really confusing storyline-wise. I don't know why they just put her in that scenario. If you want her to come back and make it a big deal, don't put her in a 1-minute squash against Sonya. That makes no sense at all. That doesn't give Alexa her moment, and you get a little bit of shine and that's it, and then you got to leave. I didn't like it. I really wish they could have done more with her, and I really wish we could have got her on the mic to at least tell us what the hell's going on. We haven't seen her in forever, and there's no reasoning why. And I'm not talking about real life reasoning, because there is real life reasoning why we haven't seen her, but at least tell me a story in her character or in the world of WWE. Tell me why she's been gone, and tell me why she's back. There was nothing. Adam comes out and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, Sonya, you lost your job. Oh, and I wanted to tell you, you're fighting Alexa Bliss. And that was it. You couldn't even give her a better introduction than that. You couldn't say like previous women's champion Alexa Bliss or something to build her up. I just wasn't a huge fan of the segment. It was one of the only segments that I did not like on Raw. And I hate saying that because I love Alexa Bliss and I love seeing her back. But there's just no advancement whatsoever with her. Yeah. I tell you what, it was great watching Sonya cry like Banshee, though.
Yeah, I think the whole story there was that Sonya Deville was distraught over the fact that she just found out that she lost her job as the GM and storyline, and she couldn't even handle a match versus anybody. They were doing a lot of getting different things started last night. We'll get into that in a minute. And I think the only place where they felt like they could get Alexa in there and make her look strong and have her be a babyface rubbing against somebody everybody hates is this segment. So I'll give them credit there. Certainly she deserves more time. And hopefully in the upcoming Raws we'll get that. She is listed as the number 2 babyface on Raw. And speaking of babyfaces and heels on Raw, looking at the updated internal roster, and right now, for women heels on Raw, we have Lacey Evans listed as the number 3 heel. We have...
Why is that?
Becky Lynch listed number 1, number 2, Rhea Ripley, number 3, Lacey Evans. She's now a Raw superstar, being introduced as a heel. So we're going to get to Lacey Evans part 6 in a minute. Before we get to that, let's talk about everything that's going on with Mustafa Ali and The Miz. It seems like Ali, based on his social media and all this stuff, really wants to go after the U.S. title. Now, obviously, the U.S. title this week was defended against Cody by Austin Theory, or by Theory. Jesus Christ, if I say Austin again, I might get a call from WWE.
Yeah, which, by the way, he still has AT on his clothing. Why does he still have AT on his clothing if he's not Awesome Theory?
If it's supposed to stand for Atlanta, or I don't know. But
A-Town Down or whatever. Oh, stupid.
Yeah. Let's just not even start with his name. Let's just... Superstar A, Superstar T.
There you go.
Fought Seth. Now, we had Ali... And, The Miz is trolling the crap out of him. Ali ends up facing Ciampa. Miz does the shit where he doesn't want to count for Ali. Then he wants to count fast for Ciampa. Now, in my opinion here, is having Miz do this not make Ciampa look weak? Because Ciampa's just... Now, the one argument for this I will make, because, how... Let's just say Ali has the match won. He hits a move. He's going for a pin, and we're counting to 10, but Miz isn't counting. And then Ciampa's just laying there for 10 seconds. And people will say, well, it makes Ciampa look like a fucking pussy to just be laying there for 10 seconds and then finally kick out. But at the same time, if you're a wrestler lying on your back, you're not going to instinctively kick out of anything until you hear 2 counts. Or
That's
any
how it
kind
always
of
works.
count. So if he's laying down, he doesn't look like an idiot. He just looks like somebody that's like, hey, I'm going to rest here because I have no jeopardy of losing because nobody's counting. Right? Yep. So, you can look at it any different way. I'm not trying to alienate anybody who thinks that it looks stupid to do that because, we can go back and forth with, what's stupid and what's not because, it's wrestling. It's not even real. So,
yeah,
there's stuff that...
Yeah.
So anyway, we have Ali in this match. They're ganging up. Where do you see him going, man? Because it looks like he wants to go for the U.S. title. The Miz is really the one who's sort of standing in his way. I don't think there's a long-term feud between Ciampa and Ali. I think it's more Ali and the Miz right now, which is fine. Like I always say, he's a great starter heel to get anybody, who they're trying to push started. Whether or not it's successful, I don't know. But how do you feel about Ali's and Miz's feud, where it's going, and just anything, man?
I'm cool with it. I'm a big fan of The Miz. I like his work. I think that a lot of people were distracted by what he was doing with his counting fast or counting slow, and I don't blame you because it distracts you from what's going on in the match itself. And they actually had a really good match. Ali was selling the crap out of what Ciampa was doing. Like it was really, really good match that kind of got hidden behind the Miz being a heel. But I love Miz, and he's the epitome of a heel to me. He is. If anybody needs to know how to be a heel, just copy everything he does. He knows exactly how to push the audience's button. And one of my favorite moments of this entire episode of Raw is when The Miz comes out to his music, and Sasha Banks and Naomi are still standing there because they haven't left yet, and they're on the top of the ramp. And The Miz comes out and does Sasha Banks dance moves where he pushes people out of the way. That was awesome. It's just, I love that kind of stuff, that he knows how to poke at every little thing that the fans like. If you like it, fans, he is going to crap on it. And so that's what he was doing in this ring. He was just basically saying, oh, if you like Ali, I'm going to crap on it by counting really slow for him, and I'll count really fast for Ciampa. And it does suck that Ciampa just kind of gets used in a sense here. I don't think he's involved in this feud per se. I think he's going to move on to somebody else. And the real feud is between Miz and Ali. I actually think not only is Miz a good starter heel to get people going, especially because he gets so much heat on the crowd, and it always makes the babyface look that much better. But the reason also I think this is a great feud is because the story in real life between Ali and WWE, there's some tension there. There's some friction. And I think The Miz is kind of acting like a representative of the WWE here in this case. He is kind of like being the face, and he's trying to be like, oh, yeah, I've been here forever, and I do things how WWE wants it, and stuff like that. And so I think he's a good opponent in that sense to help the story of Ali, who asked for a release from the WWE and didn't get it. So he obviously is not on great terms with the WWE. So that's another reason I think that this is a good person to start with. And I do see this being a not a long-term feud, but a long-term contract, or a long-term what's the word I'm looking for? Ali will be around for a long time, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't think this is just going to be a short one-and-done feud. I think he's going to be in quite a few feuds in the near future here. And this is just getting him heated up. Or I should say, this is just getting him in that babyface rub that he needs to get started for his run.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think that it can get somewhere. Hopefully it does. It'll pick up traction. You know, they need to stop booking Ali to look like an idiot, but I understand what they're doing. They're trying to get some babyface support behind him, especially since he's been gone for so long, especially since he's kind of blasted WWE on social media. They need to get him supplanted as a babyface. That's what they're attempting to do here. Whether or not it's long-term successful or not, who knows? But like we both say, The Miz is like the perfect guy to start somebody off with, and he's got the heat retention factor, and
it is cringy how they're treating Ali. It's cringy.
That's what I have a problem with.
It's purposely cringy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And you know who the best is at making cringy moments is Vince McMahon. He is the king of cringe. It's a cringe with a K. He's the king of cringe. And so I think he's got a heavy hand in making this as cringy as possible to make the audience go, man, look how horrible they're treating him. Oh, I hate this company. This really sucks. And that's really going to make Ali that much more over with the crowd. So I understand why they're doing it. And it does seem pretty bad, but it's basically what's going to happen is it's going to pay off in the end. We just need to wait for the payoff. We got to be patient.
Yep. Now let's move on to Judgment Day. They had a promo here where Edge had his haircut. He actually looked pretty slick with that haircut.
Oh, yeah.
He's out there doing the cheap heat stuff again, which is a little bit beneath him in my opinion, because I think he's great at promos. But then again, I think, it was really nice to see introduction of Rhea Ripley to this group. Now, Rhea Ripley's not going to be saying things like this anymore.
Mate, this isn't high school. And I'm not going to let your pettiness hurt Nikki's feelings.
Yeah, she's not going to be worrying about anybody's penis, hurting anybody's feelings.
Pettiness. There's a T in there somewhere, I think.
Yeah, she's a badass heel now. We saw her just beat the living shit out of Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan's a beloved babyface for a reason. Now, how do you feel about her being inserted into this faction? And do you see the faction being successful? And do you see another male member? We also saw Rhea Ripley get involved in the match between Priest and Finn Balor, where she stood in the way of a suicide dive, and then when the brawl broke out with AJ Styles, Priest, Balor, and Edge, she got in the way of it. So it seems to me that those baby faces need a female to flank them to offset this Rhea Ripley standing in the way, because we know damn well none of those men are going to hit a woman, and I don't want to see that anyway. Now, the whole thing about it is, it's like, back in the Attitude Era, they were hitting women all the time. We saw Bubba Ray Dudley powerbombing women through a table, and I'm not condoning violence by men against women. Don't get me wrong. But that didn't change me. That didn't make me a freaking psychopath.
And I think it's different when you're doing a power bomb as compared to like a punch or a strike. I'm okay with it being a bump.
Yeah, what if he just pushes her out of the way?
Right. It can be a solid bump. It doesn't have to be a strike. I think it'd look horrible if they had AJ swing on her, punch her, kick her.
Yeah.
But why not be like an accidental bump or a reversal or something like that, and the woman spills out of the ring, and then that's how she takes her damage or her bump, is she falls out of the ring, and she's basically taking the damage on her own, Yeah.
And
it's possible.
We're probably not going to see any men hurting any women, and hope to God, honestly, that we don't.
Right.
It
on
probably a regular
won't
basis.
Happen.
But if there's any woman that's going to take on a man, I think Rhea Ripley could kick half the men on the roster's ass anyway. Right. So, but yeah, good to see her as a heel, man, because she's going to make a run at that title. It's being held by a babyface now, likely going to be held by Belair for a while. So, I mentioned that we've seen the teases of them in the ring together a lot. Remember Rhea Ripley running through that gauntlet before the Elimination Chamber, then Belair coming in and finishing her at the end.
Yeah.
So, Ripley can sit there and say, listen, I wiped out Dewdrop, whoever the hell else was in there, and then you came in and took care of me when I was tired. The hell with that. I definitely see Ripley being a main eventer at Mania next year. Now, whether or not she's still in this faction by then, who the hell knows? But this is a good move for her. She needs somebody to cut the promo. Like, she can't be in there with the Australian accent talking about pinus. It's just not working. And she really doesn't come off as a great babyface. I know fans love her. I love her. But she's comes off great as a heel. Like that badass heel that just kicks ass and doesn't give a fuck. And I really liked the way that she did it. Some people might have preferred her stay babyface. Some people might have preferred her stay the hell out of this faction with these vampire antics they're doing. But I think that they're starting to dial back the cringy stuff with it. They're not being as heavy-handed. It's still a little ridiculous, but at the same time, they're finding their footing with it, as they do with anything. And we all know they're going to give Edge all the time in the world to figure it out. So, yeah, it is what it is. Now, speaking of women, we have the women's title picture. Before we actually get into that, let's talk about another woman who had a relationship with Rhea Ripley for a while, and that is going to be Nikki Ash. She was working with Drop on Monday Night Raw in a tag team match. I think a lot of us thought we'd see them get repackaged before this Raw. In my opinion, they're still getting repackaged. They just needed to have this tag match, have them lose in an embarrassing fashion, the way that Nikki Ash was posing in the middle of the ring about to hit a suplex or whatever she wanted to do, and then they lost. And then at the end of that, you had Doudrop saying, do you want to get serious now? I think that was finally the last straw where we're going to see them get repackaged. I
certainly hope so.
Yeah, I think the segment last week was the Easter egg. You plant a seed, then we see a flower start to grow with this tag match, and then it's going to be a full-blown freaking bush. I don't know if that's appropriate if you're...
I just need a character change for Nikki Ash. I need it. I need some kind of aesthetic change. She can't do this superhero gimmick anymore, so why is she still wearing the superhero outfit? Doesn't make any sense. So I need some change there. Doudrop looked a little bit different. It was like mostly black gear on, so it was a little bit darker and a little bit more serious looking. So I liked that. I've always liked Doudrop. I thought that her match with both her matches with both Becky and Bianca were really good. I'm disappointed that she didn't get as many title shots as I think she deserves, but I think she's really good in the ring. I think she's awesome on promos too, and they just don't know what to give her to say. There's no story, and I've never liked the Doudrop name or the Doudrop character. She's more badass than that. It's the same thing with Nikki Ash. Nikki Ash is way more badass than this almost a superhero business. And if you look back at both of their previous careers before they were on the main roster of WWE, they played more badass, edgy characters, and it was much more over. It was much better. So I really want to see them kind of go down a spiral here and get real dark and real serious. And make a big 180 with your characters. Make a big 180 with everything you're doing, ladies. I love you both. I just need to see something different. What you're doing now is not working.
Yeah, I agree, man. And the one thing about them tagging together, Kofi Kingston said this one time.
Yes, you love to see it, man. It's a little known fact that every tag team in WWE must fill out a registration form.
They did not fill out a tag team registration form. So are they a real tag team or are they not?
You got to get registered.
Now, I'm kidding, obviously, but really, I do think that they hinted at the character change last week, and then a lot of people expected it to just come this week, and then they saw Nikki ASH come out and the superhero stuff and said, oh, they didn't change. They're changing it. They wouldn't be teasing this, get serious, get serious, get serious. Doudrop being the one to tell her to get serious while Doudrop's wearing, a biker jacket, looking like a badass that wants to ride a freaking Harley Davidson into a bar and cause some trouble. So I really think that we're going to get something with Nikki ASH in the next week or two that's different. Maybe they take her off TV for a little bit and then we do it, but they did have the tag team together. I don't know if they'll fill out the registration form for Kofi or not, but, that's where I see that going now. We'll move on to the title picture involving the following.
Belanca, you stupid idiot! Her name is Bianca Belaire!
That's right, her name's Bianca Belaire, not Belanca, or anything that Michael Cole ever said mistakenly on SmackDown. Now, that voice was actually Bayley, and I think that we're going to see Bayley come back soon, probably to SmackDown, especially since they suddenly moved Lacey over to Raw. Now, the move from Lacey to Raw, I don't fucking understand that shit at all. Well, I guess consider that as part of the women's title picture. But to me, the women's title picture right now is Bianca Belaire and Asuka and Becky Lynch. We had two faces face off in the main event, Bianca Belaire and Asuka, but we had Becky Lynch on commentary wearing those crazy sunglasses the whole time and then do the interference. This match started with about 4 minutes left in the show, so I knew that it was going to end in a DQ or something like that. But we had Becky come in and wipe out Bianca, and then she came in and hit the manhandle slam on Asuka. I'll tell you what, it's been a while since Becky ran in on somebody and actually landed the manhandle slam. Every time she tried to do it to Bianca, she'd power out. She even did it to somebody else. I think she tried to do it to Asuka a couple weeks ago, and Asuka got out of it. And I was just happy to see Becky get in there and own that moment, But, bigger picture We had those two in the match, Asuka and Bianca, and then we had the interference by Becky. We have Hell in a Cell coming up, so we knew that Asuka and Becky were going to be feuding. I'm not sure that there's a heel ready and heated up to fight Bianca, so putting them in a triple threat match for the title is definitely something I see happening, with Bianca going over two very strong female competitors. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the way Asuka is presented, especially since there's really no difference between how she's presented now and how she was previously presented, and sometimes it just feels like they present her this way to laugh at her. And I don't know. I think she's a really tough fighter and a really good wrestler, and I don't think that she always needs to be like, oh, mommy, baby, poo-poo on your face, and you're like, I just feel like the broken English thing is like kind of racist, to be honest with you. But
yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that promo. It was a little over the place, all over the place.
yeah, the one thing I liked about it was the fact that Becky was like, what the hell sense does that make? That you got to beat the champion to get a championship match? What is that? Like, she's
calling out her own company.
Yeah. So, do you think we're looking at a triple threat there with the three of them? Immediate future.
I guess when you're thinking about, I mean, obviously Becky and Asuka are starting a feud, but getting Bianca involved, like you said, you got two faces and a heel. Well, if it comes down to Bianca and Asuka, then who are you going to be cheering on? It's difficult to cheer for two different baby faces. So they could do it, and it would be a hell of a match because the three of them are awesome. But, I mean, there's really not a lot more for Bianca to face as far as heels go. If I'm looking at the roster for Raw right now and people that she could fight as far as heels go, well, Carmella and Queen Zelina have split up. Well, they thought they split up, but then they were back together. But how many times has she fought either of them? She's fought them a couple times, right?
Leading into WrestleMania, she fought almost everybody and just beat the living hell out of them in like 30 seconds.
Right, so they can't be fought. She's already fought against Doudrop. She's not going to fight against Nikki Ash because nobody wastes their time on Nikki Ash. Just saying. I mean, the only next person for her to fight is Rhea Ripley. So, in my opinion. So, how do you get her involved with Rhea Ripley right now while Rhea's got this story going on with Liv? You can't. So, I do see the triple threat match, or if Becky wants to say the triple threat match, the triple threat. Well, anyways, I shouldn't make fun of accents because I have a really lame Midwest American accent here. But anyways, it's going to be a good match for the three of them. It's just going to be weird because I want any of them to win. Honestly, I guess that's what you want with when you have three people fighting against each other, is you kind of want them all to be backed. But the promo was not my favorite between Asuka and Becky. I didn't like. I liked one line from each of them. The line that you pointed out from Becky, where she was kind of calling out her own company and saying, well, that doesn't make sense. You have to beat the champion to get a match against the champion to beat them again for the belt. So I thought that's kind of funny. And then I liked the line that Asuka said when she says, you're not acting like a mom. I thought that was a little deep there, but you completely missed the depth of the comment by her crazy childish antics. And I know she does that. That's like part of her character. But when you're saying those kind of lines, it doesn't make sense. When you're talking about that kind of content and that material, it doesn't make sense to act that way. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. But the match could have been awesome. I think we all want to see Bianca and Asuka go at it, but I think there's a reason why we only got 4 minutes, and that's because they're holding it off. They want to make sure that the audience is left wanting more. So although I want to see more than a 4-minute match, I understand why they did it that way. But I do feel like they could have took this match and they could have put it in the middle of the episode and had Becky do her thing. Because we already saw this same exact thing happen basically with Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins, where Seth freaking Rollins comes in and interrupts. You know, it happened a couple times in the episode. So I don't think you should have ended with another interruption. This would have been planned better in the middle of the show. And maybe you have that tag team match between RK Bro and Street Profits be your final match. I don't know. Could have been that. But yeah, it's going to be a good triple threat when they have it.
Yeah, I think that's that. I mean, I think that's where they're going with it. We'll probably see that at Hell in a Cell. I'm okay with it. We'll probably see Lynch take a pin after she, somebody takes care of Asuka, and then Lynch eats a KOD for Bianca to go over and beat two formidable opponents and continue to make her look strong. I think she's very much the face of the WWE right now, other than Reigns, And I think moving forward, that's what they want. She's a homegrown talent. She's, a fantastic athlete, very young, and so that's where they're going with it. Now, other women on the roster, we have Lacey Evans, who's been moved to Raw as a heel. We've been getting all these promos about her life story for the sixth one last night on Raw, a little bit abbreviated on Raw. But she was brought out on SmackDown, and it was real strange because they had the ring announcer prep the crowd to show her the respect and whatever that she deserves and to stand and honor her. And that's not something we've really ever seen done for a babyface. So lo and behold, they move her to Raw. We get the promo out of nowhere on Raw after getting it for 6 weeks on SmackDown, which is strange that they would tie up the airwaves on SmackDown, which is a 2-hour show, and then put a shorter promo on Raw, which is a 3-hour show, and also have her introduced to the crowd on SmackDown. But I honestly think that maybe they moved her to Raw because who knows when they made the decision to make her heel or babyface. But I'll tell you that the first couple times it felt like babyface promos, but the last 3 or 4 times it felt more like heel promos, like I'm angry at the world for what I've gone through, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, and none of you privileged people are going to stop me. And so that's what I think her motivation and her angle is. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this because we got a lot of other stuff to get into, but just real quick, what do you think about Evans and, her potential to be a heel on Raw? And really, is it something that you're interested in based on what they've shown us? Do you think they've sort of shoved it to us a little bit too much? And
and it's on purpose. They did it to pull the wool over our eyes. I think they were. I can just see Vince McMahon laughing his ass off in the back, going, "Oh, I just pulled a good rib on the audience, making everybody think that Lacey turned into a baby face, but nope, she's still a heel." I could just see him in the back thinking that and saying that out loud and laughing to himself.
You know what else is funny, man?
That's what happened.
You know what else is funny? I think 4 or 5 guys that went to SmackDown last week when they did the whole introduction thing. Mm-hmm. One person told me as soon as it happened that she was getting a standing ovation and all this stuff. The other 4, 2 of them said she got a mild babyface, lukewarm reaction. The other 2 said very underwhelming reaction. Nobody really cared. So I think it falls probably somewhere in the middle. She probably got a mild reaction. Everyone's, maybe in the section, the one guy and everybody was standing. But I don't think that an arena full of people is going to give somebody a standing ovation when the ring announcer prompts them to do it. Now, of course, everybody appreciated the Marine stuff and appreciates her story. I have a little bit of a thing when they belabor overdoses and drug uses. I know it's real life. It's really sad. I happen to know a lot of people who have been through that, and it's really a tough subject to get into and to sort of use as cheap sympathy, because it's real sympathy. It's a real thing. And even the military is a real thing. I've been a part of the Marines. I was medically discharged, and I'm a certified contractor for the Department of Defense through the Air Force at the McGuire Air Force Base. So, no, I wasn't in combat, but I do have the respect for the Marines and for the military as a whole. You know, so I'm not somebody who's going to sit here and shit all over anything that has to do with the Marines. I appreciate that. The drug stuff, I appreciate overcoming that, certainly, because it's something that hurts everybody and it's hurting way too much people. But at the same time, you know, all these different overdose stories and things like that, it's like, if you're not, true or not, if you're not really going to use that as something, you can't use that as something to swerve people, is what I'm saying. I don't appreciate being swerved with it.
And I think the same thing in the same note is when you're talking about somebody's military experience, that's something that it shows that person a sign of respect. Well, they use that to make us think one thing, to make us think that we should respect this person. But in essence, she's coming in as a heel, and we shouldn't. So I agree from that point of view, too, that I hate the fact that they got all those military pops out of her for nothing, basically. You know, it would have been better if when they introduced her live and she came out, they just introduced her as she was a Marine, right? You could say Marine Lacey Evans, and she would have got a nice pop. You didn't have to say, make sure that you stand and make sure that you applaud. You know, that was kind of gross to me.
No, I thought that was totally inappropriate.
Mm-hmm. It's like using the military.
I was wondering if whether or not she actually was meant to say that on TV, and they accidentally put it on TV. You know, they wanted to get the crowd prepped for a good reaction when they brought her out on TV, but that was aired on TV. Now, was it the ring announcer saying the wrong shit? Who the fuck knows? But at the end of the day, it turns out that she is listed as a heel. That's where they're going with her. Whether or not that is something that they switch. The most recent internal roster I've seen had her listed as a heel on Raw, and she was listed as a heel on Babyface, or a heel on SmackDown before. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. Why are they moving her? First of all, I don't know. What the hell's going on SmackDown that they have all these women that they don't have room for Lacey Evans?
I thought the perfect feud for her to come back to would have been against Charlotte, especially Charlotte after she lost her title. You know,
the problem is Charlotte's not going to be here.
I realize that, but I'm saying if they had done this differently, then they could have had Charlotte be her first feud. Even if Charlotte wasn't actually wrestling or anything like that, Lacey Evans could call her out for 2 weeks and say, Charlotte, you're the person that I've been talking about in these promos, and I want to face you. And I know that you just lost your title to Ronda. I'll take care of her later, but right now I want to go after you, Charlotte, because you're the person that I've been talking about that I don't like. You're the women's wrestler that's had everything handed to you, like I was saying in my promos in the first week or two, and I'm coming after you. And it would work. I mean, think about it this way. There's been plenty of times where certain talents would have to go away for a month or whatever, and for real life reasons or not, and the heel or the babyface comes out and calls them out for that amount of time, and the other person doesn't show up. It's a great way to get heat on either person without even having that other person be there. I was just watching that awesome episode of Evil by WWE, and they were talking about The Miz. And when The Miz knew John Cena was going to be gone for 8 weeks, he still continued to call him out every single episode for 8 weeks straight, just to get that crowd to hate him so much that he wanted to see him come out and kick his ass. And you could do that with these women too. You don't have to have them in front of the camera. You could have Lacey Evans come out there and shit on Charlotte, and the audience would love it. Nobody likes Charlotte, right? It'd be easy. And I thought that was a good warm-up for her, too, because they have previous experience. They've wrestled together, and Lacey Evans would be able to get her feet wet again. She'd knock off the ring rust with somebody she's familiar with and somebody that works really well that's a ring general. I'm calling Charlotte a ring general. She is. If anybody doesn't know what that means, just look up the terminology for wrestling. You'll find ring general in there. And I thought it was great. But then they pull a 180, they turn it into a heel, and they send her to Raw. Now I don't even know what to think. I have no idea what's going on.
Yep, and I think we should just leave it at that. We don't know what's going on. We got to see what's going on when we tune into Raw. So everybody tune into Raw, and we will be here to break it down for you, whether it's
wow, you
good
sound
or bad.
like Roman Reigns right now. Hey, everybody, turn into Raw. Tune into SmackDown. I'll tell you about it later.
Well, I mean, I just don't think they've given us much more to say about it other than they're turning their heel when we were expecting babyface, even though everything felt heel, and it's just, I don't know. I'm not going to shit on it because I think that, something good could come from it. Something good could come from anything. We haven't even seen it played out yet, so I know I can understand people kind of being pissed off or being honestly annoyed by the fact that we've had to see it 1,000 times, but it is what it is. Other things on Raw, we had Cody and Seth's feud continue. We had the tights being pulled at Backlash, as we mentioned, and then we had Seth interfere in Cody's U.S. title match. We knew damn well Cody wasn't going to mess around and win the U.S. title. Something was going to happen here, and having that Seth Rollins promo just before the match solidified it to me that he was going to be running in here. So we now have Cody and Seth definitely. He finally hit the curb stomp too on the table. Hasn't hit the curb stomp. Maybe that
on
might
the
be
table too.
Might be the only time he ever gets to hit the curb stomp on Cody because he ain't doing it in a match. Because I don't think he's going to beat Cody at Hell in a Cell if they have a match. Now, I can see this match being in the Cell. The other one I could see being in the Cell is an Edge and AJ match. But I don't want to get into Edge and AJ any more than we already have. I do want to just address, do you see Cody and Seth being a feud that deserves 3 matches, and do you think Cody deserves to go over Seth 3 consecutive times?
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'll take 5 matches with these guys. They're awesome. They know what they're doing together. They got great chemistry between each other, and it was definitely very predictable when Cody was saying, "No, my feud with Seth is over." Right then and there, I knew that Seth was going to pop out sometime during this match and either screw him over or attack him afterwards or something. And that's exactly what we got. But predictable is okay sometimes because I frankly wanted another match. It was a good match, though, between Cody and Theory. I will say they did a good job together. I think that was as much of a test for Cody as it was for Theory. I know Theory's the young guy, and he's being looked at through a microscope right now in every single match he has, and I thought Theory did a great job. But I think Cody was actually getting tested a little bit too to see how he can do with somebody different with Seth, because he's already had 2 matches with Seth, so we got to get him mixed up. He did have that match with KO, which was really good, and then now they got him going with somebody young. And I think that what they're doing is they're preparing Cody to be really good at matching up with anybody. So I appreciate that. And the fact that Theory is a good heel right now, he's doing a lot of good heel work in the ring during the matches. That mixed really well with Cody's style too, because Cody has a very good babyface psychology in the ring. So those 2 styles mixed really well. I actually really enjoyed the match, and I was okay with the predictable outcome of Seth coming out and attack him. I love Seth. Happy to see him every single time he comes out. But Seth, what are you doing with that half coat? What the hell was that, man? I can get behind your gear all the time, but I can't do the half coat. That was just messed up. I don't know what he was wearing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this will go to the Cell, and to be honest with you,
and it just doesn't matter what type of match it is. It could be The Rock and Triple H in a no DQ match. It could be The Rock and DX in a handicap match. It could be The Rock and Stephanie in a stick 50 balloons right up your match.
doesn't matter what kind of match it is, like The Rock just said. It's not going to be The Rock versus Triple H, but it's going to be Seth Rollins versus Cody, and it can be any fucking type of match they want to do. I think it's going to be gold, so I'm happy to see that they kept going. It was certainly predictable that it was, but the fact that they put him in the U.S. title match, they built it the whole night. You know, they had us looking forward to it at 9 p.m. They even told us the time it was going to come on, and then they did the promo, certainly telegraphed it, but like I said, well, telegraphed or not, interference or not, almost every single second that they took for matches or segments advanced a storyline or started one or added a wrinkle to did something. I mean, next up we got Omas, Lashley, and MVP out here, and that ended up with us getting a cage match next week on Raw between Omas and Lashley. Have no idea how that's going to end up. Maybe Lashley throws Omas into the cage and it breaks it open, and Omas wins that way by escaping the cage, just like when the Big Show threw Stone Cold Steve Austin into the cage at St. Valentine's Day Massacre way back when, and he ended up winning that way. That's one way I could see this match going. Other than that, we got two monsters in a cage next week on Monday Night Raw. Now, this segment with the VIP lounge, to me, is, you know, I can't get enough of MVP behind the mic, but Cedric Alexander coming out like a goofball and jumping on Lashley's back.
Yeah, that was almost cringy. His promo was almost cringy.
Yeah, it's like, come on, Cedric. Like, and honestly, they just need to find something else for these guys to do, for the Hurt Business guys. Just find something else for them to do. They don't need it.
I'm expecting some kind of turn, but he keeps trying to be friends with them, and it's obviously not working because he keeps getting his ass kicked.
What Cedric should do is be like, you know what? Nobody wants, you know, you don't want me MVP. Fuck you. I'm going to help Bobby. And so is Shelton. You know,
exactly.
I don't understand why they had to keep being like, hey, let's team up with you and this giant Nigerian guy, and they don't need him. So go help Bobby if you want to, or go help solidify a tag team division that we had to see RK Bro face Street Profits every fucking week, if not them, the Alpha Academy. And it's to the point now where they're going back and forth between Raw and SmackDown with the Usos and RK Bro just to make the tag division seem like it actually matters. So, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, enough with Cedric Alexander messing with Lashley. We already have Lashley messing with MVP and Omas. I mean, he's got his hands full. He's got his hands full with Omas, making sure he stays alive in the ring. So, you know. Now, how do you feel about the cage match? You think it's going to be a good cage match? You see anything cool happening, or do you think it's just going to be
they're gonna have to have a big spot? That's what I think might make the match. I think they should have something where, you know, like you said, he gets thrown through the cage, or maybe Bobby gets put through a table, or maybe falls from a certain height or something like that. They do need a big spot to make it work, in my opinion, because they've already had the two matches between them, right? They've already had Omas win, they've already had Bobby win, so it'll be a rubber match in essence. Whoever wins this is the series winner, right? But I feel like in order to get that series win, it's going to have to take something big, some kind of big spot. So I'm hoping to see that. It almost can't do much with his own body. He can't take bumps, he can't fly off the top rope. He can't do a lot of that stuff. So in the cage, I think that's actually a really good place for him to fight, because when you're locked in the cage, you're not going to be jumping off ropes as often. You're not going to be doing high flyer moves. Of course, he's not going to anyway, but you don't have as much room to move. So it kind of makes sense more for him. And I foresee Bobby's face being pushed into the cage. If I had to give it an over-under, I'm going to go like 8 times. It's going to happen a lot.
All right. My big spot for that match, I think, is going to be a superplex off of the cage by Bobby to Omas, and it's going to actually break the ring. They're going to break the ring in this match. Why the hell else would they do this?
What was that, like Big Show, and who was it that broke the ring? I can't remember now.
Strowman did it. I think Big Show did it to somebody, but I mean,
yeah,
a lot of different people that are Andre the Giant. They did it with, but whatever. So, I mean, we've said enough about Omas and Lashley between their Backlash match and this. So let's move on to something a little bit more entertaining here.
Let me just start this off and just say thank you.
All right, so Chad Gable here is real excited. And he's back here talking to Kevin Owens about how he's got a DNA test for Ezekiel's cup. Got Kevin Owens hilarious as hell saying, the DNA lab? You sent it to the DNA lab? He's just all
he's
giddy,
the
but it
best.
was great. And then he comes out wearing a wig and acting like he's his brother, and then he gets so pissed off he just rips the shit off. But just real quick, there's not really much substance to this. We got Alpha Academy and KO doing the comedy thing with Zeke. Just one question with it. Do you see Elias ever actually becoming a part of this where we're like, holy shit, what's going on here? We got Elias coming out and Zeke's in the middle of the ring. What do they do?
No. I don't think so. I mean, it's going to be difficult for them to pay this story off, really, because we're all kind of with KO in the sense where we're like, yeah, that is Elias. We know it's Elias. So, we're kind of with him on this one. So I don't know exactly how they're going to pay it off to like really prove to us that Ezekiel is not Elias outside of what you just said, outside of Elias literally walking out. And that's what Ezekiel said, too, before they started their match, or at least what was supposed to be a match, is he's like, well, the only way that we'll be able to prove this to be true is if my brother Elias comes out here and sings you, I think he said sings you a lullaby or something like that, which I thought was really funny. So that was a good line. But before, anybody could even react, KO attacked him, and then that was it. He just gave him the beat, and the Alpha Academy came down, gave him the beat down. So I don't know how they're going to pay it off. I don't know how they're going to convince us and make it look real that Ezekiel is Elias's younger brother, outside of literally having Elias come out there as well. So, which would be crazy, because none of us know about a twin of Elias out there, do we? I don't think we do. But I just want to note, though, that KO and Alpha Academy are the funniest thing easily on WWE right now. They're hilarious. They have such good chemistry and back and forth. And there was just like this one part where KO was saying, oh yeah, and my brother Ken Owens is coming out here, and Alpha Academy is going along. They're like, oh yeah, I love that guy Ken, he's great. Like they already know who he is. Like, oh yeah, he's awesome, I know all about Ken. So they work the comedy factor so well between the three of them. They can get rid of the rest of the comedy on the entire show as long as they give me those three guys. They are fantastic together. So I enjoyed it. But as far as Ezekiel goes, yeah, I don't know how they're going to pay it off. But I want to see more. Obviously, everybody wants to see more. So they left us wanting. They did their job.
Yeah, I think that they're doing a good job with it. They're making it funny. They're making it palatable. And they're doing a good job with it, man. So, it is what it is. I mean, it's probably not for everybody, but, people think Ezekiel looks like a knockoff of Ultimate Warrior and things like that. But at the end of the day, man, I'm all right with it. I think
it's not for everybody, but to those people, all I have to say is, shush!
That's right. Chad Gable says it better, so let's just check in with him. What's he have to say about this? All right, there we go. Chad said shoo, so
there you go.
Listen to that shit.
Oh, thank you.
Now, going into SmackDown here, we know we're getting the women's tag title. Probably not anything with Lacey Evans now that she's moved to Raw. Not sure what the hell else is advertised for this. What do you think we're going to see on SmackDown? We got Ronda Rousey, obviously, coming onto the show as the champion for the first time as a babyface. I'm willing to give her a shot as a babyface. Like I said, she's had to go through this feud with Charlotte Flair. She may not have wanted to be a ball player with everything, but I also think that she's had some serious ring rust and probably some serious issues, like mentally, to get through it. She's just had a kid, and she, I'm trying to be a humanitarian and be diplomatic about this. Let's not just make Ronda Rousey out to be a complete worthless person. Now, at the same time, she needs to stop putting us to sleep with the promos. We need a little more excitement. You know, she got a huge pop last week when she ran out to save Aaliyah, but the pop was only because she was the first babyface out on TV for that show and because she was rubbed against Charlotte. So they need desperately somebody to put her up against that's going to keep people behind her if she's going to stay in this sort of persona that she's in and stay a babyface. Otherwise, the fans are going to turn on this if they haven't already. So just real quick, how do you think Ronda's going to do as a babyface champion, that is?
Well, she just doesn't have anybody to face. That's the problem. Is I think she'd be fine, but there's nobody for her to face outside of Charlotte, and Charlotte's taking some time off. You know, if I'm just looking at the roster for SmackDown, and you're thinking about heels, well, you've got the tag team of Natalya and Shayna Baszler, but in real life, Ronda and Shayna are best friends, so maybe the two of them. But there's no reason for them to have a feud. I don't know why their characters would feud at all, so I kind of scratched off Shayna Baszler, and Natalya's been busy with NXT and doing other things, so I don't think she's going to get mixed up in a feud with Ronda anytime soon. You've got Shotzi, but we don't even know who Shotzi is because she got beat in a minute 20 seconds or whatever the other day, and that's the most we saw of her in the last 2 months. So I don't know what they're going to do with her. But there is Xia Li out there, and Xia Li has simply no build right now at all, but she is a heel, and she is available. So that it could be a possible person for Ronda to... I can't even understand if they're going to have a feud together, but maybe a squash match, maybe a setup match between Ronda and Xia Li to move on to somebody else. I don't know. There's just nobody for her to face right now. Unless you make up some kind of story that doesn't really make sense. You'd have to really sway me. Now, you have Raquel Rodriguez, who's part of SmackDown, but they've been introducing her as a babyface, so she can't go up against Ronda either. And so the only results I can see out of this is you got to do something to get Ronda to a heel. I mean, it is possible. You can figure out ways to make her a heel, and I think all of us would appreciate that. I think she's a better heel than she is babyface. But they obviously want her to do a babyface championship run, so she's got nobody to face. I really don't know. I'm left just kind of with my hands in the air, like, I don't know. What do we do now?
So I lift my hands up in the air. I look to the sky, and what falls directly into my hands is somebody named Bayley. I think that we're going to see Bayley return, and she's going to be the one to challenge Ronda or get into a program with her.
Certainly
because
hope so.
It makes the most sense. She's a heel. She's phenomenal. She's outstanding in the ring. She can really elevate Ronda in a lot of different ways. She's one of those heels that fans love, a lot like Seth and a lot like KO. So, you know, if we get that return, you know, I'm going to be at the show. I've probably said that 10,000 times on the air. I'm not bragging about it. I'm just happy to be going and there to be interesting things happening. And so if I see Bayley come out, I'm going to pop big time. And I'll be sure to note how big of a pop she gets from the crowd, whether she enters as a heel or a babyface. She's getting a pop on her return. People have been waiting for this forever. I really hope it's this week, man. I hope we don't just get Ronda cutting a promo or gets out of the ring and we get Bayley in a week or two. We need somebody in there to buffer Ronda now. That's why they did the Drew Gulak crap. Charlotte did as much as she could. I don't want to hear that Charlotte's no good because she couldn't carry this feud. You know, she is very good, okay? She did do everything she could. She made it a little bit interesting. A lot of people were like, oh, Charlotte sucks. She's supposed to be the best in the fucking business, and she can't even get Ronda Rousey to do anything. And yeah, Ronda is drowsy. Ronda does put us to sleep. But you know what? She's not in a program with Charlotte Flair anymore. She's not the challenger anymore. Maybe she carries herself differently. Maybe somebody brings her aside. I know she's had talking tos before. Maybe somebody says, listen, you have the title now. You're the featured person on this show. Fox wants you on this show. We need you to do it now, or we're going to put you in a fucking match where you're booked to lose in 2 minutes and the title's gone. I don't care. I mean, who knows? That's what I would do, because you need to have her representing that show as a babyface in a positive way. Now, if she doesn't want to do it, fine. Get Bayley in there. Get the title on Bayley. That's all I think I can see him doing. I think
that's
Bayley's
a great
the opponent.
prediction. I think that's a perfect mix too. You got, and I can just see it happening too on SmackDown, where you got Ronda coming out there and getting her big babyface pop, and she starts talking about how she defeated Charlotte, and then somewhere in the middle of her promo, that's when Bayley's music hits, and she comes out. And she starts making that real annoying voice that she does. I'm not going to try to do an impression at all, but
she talks about how she's the role model, and Ronda's the baddest woman on the planet, and people shouldn't fucking be cheering for. I think it's
That'd
ready
be a good setup. I think so too. I agree. I think I'm ready for it. And you know what else is going to get a big pop for me when Bayley comes out is if she interrupts Ronda.
yeah, just the fact that she interrupt Ronda will score you big points. But other than that, man, did you hear anything about SmackDown or have anything to say about SmackDown coming up before we move into awards?
No, not necessarily. No.
All right, so let's get the hell done with our regular podcast here, and we'll move right on to an awards. What do you think, man?
Well, before we get to the best and worst of everything, I thought that I had a really good problem this week. I had a lot of good options, and I couldn't pick what was my favorite in a lot of these cases because the Raw had a lot of great moments, a lot of good matches, a lot of good promos. So some of these answers I'm going to have 2 or 3 options for, some honorable mention.
That's all right. That's a good problem to have. That means that we actually got some good programming this week. So start out here. We're just going to do Raw. We're not going to do SmackDown. Unless you had a SmackDown answer, that's fine. We're not going to do Backlash because we've talked about that to death. So let's just talk about our best match of the Raw episode.
Yeah, I would have to say Rhea and Liv. I really enjoyed that match. The psychology was awesome. Rhea was just beating the crap out of Liv, and Liv did a really good job, too, of fighting back, and she looked really good in this match. I gotta say, Liv has looked exponentially better in the last month. She's improving in a lot of different ways. And even during the ring, Liv was saying stuff like, I hate your guts, and things like that to Rhea, and it was really convincing. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fact that they had a good promo beforehand with the Judgment Day, and then the Judgment Day got involved with the match too. That was a good involvement. You had run-ins with AJ and Balor as well, so I kind of wrapped that all into this match. That was my favorite. How about you?
My favorite match of the night was Cody and Theory for the U.S. title, despite the fact that it ended in a DQ. I felt like they really worked together well in the ring, especially for 2 guys who don't normally work in the ring together very much. We had Cody work pretty good. We had Austin Theory doing the cartwheel taunt, the Stardust thing. So overall, that was my best match of the night. What'd you have for best gear?
Edge's new haircut. That was awesome. I like that it matches Rhea, and I like that Damien slicked his back a little bit and did his a little bit different too, so the 3 of them could match. That was some awesome gear. And just a small note too, after Rhea won that match and they were all standing in the middle of the ring, Rhea had new music, by the way, which I also wanted to have a consideration as best gear, because I consider music as part of your gear.
Yeah, her new music is definitely good. I liked it. It's like a melange of Edge's stuff with the brutality. It's good. I liked it. It really fit her character. My best gear was Rhea Ripley. I like that look she has. I like that dominatrix type look. Honorable mention, I always give Sasha Banks, but I have to go with Rhea here, because was Sasha Banks even on this show? On Raw?
She was, but she was wearing like a t-shirt, like a kind of like a tight t-shirt or something, or maybe it was like a tank top. It wasn't her normal gear, that's for sure. It was a little bit different. I mean, she still looked good. Sasha is always a candidate for best gear.
Whoa. Hold the horn. Alexa Bliss had the best gear. I'm sorry. I messed this one up. So
that's okay, man. Sometimes there was a lot going on that episode.
Yeah, so go with Alexa Bliss there for me. How about worst gear?
So I've got a couple options for this. My main winner is actually a couple winner. It is both Seth frickin' Rollins and Becky Lynch. Seth because of his stupid half coat, and Becky because of her stupid RoboCop sunglasses. And then also I want to make an honorable mention. Nikki Ash, why are you still dressed in that outfit? Please get rid of it. I mean, I'm not going to call it the worst gear because I've seen it before, but you got to change it at some point.
Yeah, I think the worst gear for me was whatever the hell Ezekiel was wearing. Until he changed his outfit, I could vote for him every week. But I also didn't like the Seth coat that he had. Didn't like the shit that Becky was wearing either. A lot of people like how it's sort of futuristic and different and stuff like that. I find it annoying. But
yeah, me too.
Seems like her and her husband are on the same page in their wardrobe, so that's fine.
It's not really the drip I'm looking for.
Yeah, so anyway, we get best line. What do you think was the best line?
So there's another couple options here because there's a lot of good lines in the episode. My favorite line, just straight up line, is I gotta go with Riddle's reference to Stone Cold Steve Austin when he said, "RK Bro 420 says we just smoked your asses." I thought that was pretty funny, and I like it was throwing back to Austin 316, and they involved their whole smoking image as well with it. So that's my favorite line, but I have to give a couple honorable mentions. One, I already mentioned it before, and I know it's not a line, but when Miz came out and he was doing Sasha's dance moves, I thought that was great. And then my next honorable mention is Edge had a lot of good lines during the second half of their promo, but he said specifically that Rhea and Damien was his Saints of Fate, and I thought that was really cool. Saints of Fate.
All right, my best line of the night was pretty simple. It was Lynch telling Adam Pearce that the fucking contenders matches didn't make any goddamn sense because it's true. So what's the worst line you had for the night?
I couldn't really find a lot of horrible lines in this show, but I didn't like Sonya saying I do everything by the book and I get the job done. She kind of sounds like Miz, I guess. I wasn't a fan of that. And then Corey Graves during the Miz match, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say the Miz match, during Ciampa and Ali, when Miz was reffing and they were talking about his official style, Corey Graves says each official has their own counting cadence and their own interpretation of the rule book. Bullshit, they have their own interpretations of the rule book. Get out of here, Corey. They're the officials. They're supposed to have the exact same interpretations of the rule book. I hated that line.
Yeah, he sounded like a goddamn some idiot from the NFL trying to tell us about some terrible call that happened over the weekend or something. But yeah, my worst line was Asuka saying, "Boo-hoo, you say you a mommy, but you not a mommy. You act like a baby and poo-poo in your pants and the diapers, and I clean them with the bottle and the yabba dabba do." Like, I just, come on. What the hell is that? And I'm not trying to sit here and alienate Asian people. I don't understand why WWE is forcing this Asian woman to speak that way. And so, if she likes it, fine, but the line sucked, in my opinion. Best promo or segment backstage or in the ring. Full segment here. Now, it could have been a long segment like the Judgment Day promo, or it could have been something backstage with 24/7. Could have been something backstage with Rollins or KO. But best segment.
I got a lot of options again here. There's a lot of good segments on Raw. I have to give Alpha Academy and KO an honorable mention for their awesome comedic acting. I've got to give RK Bro and the Street Profits for starting the show off with a decent promo. I think both tag teams did a good job. But my favorite promo and segment was the Judgment Day promo, and specifically the second half of the Judgment Day promo. The first part of it, Edge comes out and he's giving his typical heat statements on the crowd, shitting on the crowd, making fun of them and their intelligence. But once he hands the mic over to Damien and Rhea and lets them have a chance to do their part, I enjoyed that. And then once he gets the mic back, he made some really good lines there to really capture my attention. I really liked what he was saying. And just before he was cut off, too, he said that they're not finished yet. They're still looking for more. So I really liked that. That's my favorite promo or segment.
That's right. And we'll get into who that more might be this weekend when we talk about things. Or if we can't get around to doing that, we'll certainly talk about it on Monday. My best promo or segment was your honorable mention, KO and Gable backstage with Zeke. It was brief, but to me, everything Kevin Owens is doing promo segment wise is absolute gold. It's just funny as hell, and I think that he's tremendous at what he does. I really haven't seen somebody in a really long time that does this kind of work on the mic comedically, but also has the wrestling talent to back it up. So I think KO back there
did a great job too. And you got to make sure you give Otis credit, because I know he doesn't have actual lines, but while the two of them are going back and forth, he's sitting there like repeating them and saying little things underneath his breath, and it's absolutely hilarious.
Right, the whole three of them are fucking killing it, man. I mean, like I said, I was about to add, Gable's just like funny, and he can back it up in the ring. So, I love guys like that, and WWE loves guys like that. They love guys that can act and that can do things, and that's why they put guys when they first bring them up in the roles where they have to do a lot of acting and things like that, so they can see, okay, this guy can handle this role, he can handle any kind of role that we give him. And that's sort of what we're seeing with Butch. We're not going to get into that because that's SmackDown, but speaking of SmackDown, one of the things that we do know about SmackDown is that RK Bro wants to go over to SmackDown and tell the Usos that they won all the gold after the Usos did that to them in the first place. So we know the tag unification thing isn't completely over yet. Whether or not it's going to happen, that remains to be seen. How about worst promo or segment tonight?
Well, you were talking about it as your least favorite line from Asuka. I just didn't enjoy the whole segment altogether. I know that Becky had a funny line in there, but it wasn't enough to save it for me. I didn't enjoy that promo very much.
Yeah, I agree with you. That wasn't a great one, but for me, nothing is worse than the 24/7 segment where they spend about 30 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever at the end of the show, mind you, when they could be giving this time to the main event, just for R-Truth to deliver whatever kind of paper, to serve divorce papers and do all this bullshit with this wedding. I understand that it's a comedy segment and some people enjoy it, but I mean, they're going too far with all this R-Truth divorce and marriage and whatever and Tozawa. It's just, you put the 24/7 segment in there, it's going to be the worst one for me every week, because all the rest of them add to some kind of storyline that matters, and I don't feel like the 24/7 one matters right now at all. So
yeah, it has nothing to do with the title or having matches or wrestling in general, so it needs to just be removed.
And finally, we have most important moment of the show. What was your most important moment?
Well, I gotta say it was, during the whole Judgment Day promo at the end there, I mentioned it when Edge said that they're not finished yet and they're looking for more. I thought that was extremely important to make sure that the crowd understands that Judgment Day is not filled yet and that there's new members coming.
All right, and my most important moment of the show was Seth Rollins running in on Cody Rhodes to extend their feud. I felt like that was important. It needed to be done right away so that we knew that it wasn't over. And that's what happened. So I felt like that was most important. What'd you have for least important? Biggest thing you could just throw out the window?
Yeah, a couple options. You know, I already told you that I didn't like the match with Alexa Bliss. To me, it's like it's almost like a shame. You know, it's a shame for you to put Alexa Bliss in a 1-minute match and only have her come out there to look pretty and then leave. I don't know. She deserves more than that. And then another honorable mention is Doudrop and Nikki Ash's match just didn't really do anything except for the end when Doudrop told her she needs to get her stuff together. But the least important moment to me, by far, was the Lacey Evans promo. Considering she's now a heel, why do we have Lacey saying all of this babyface stuff when she's a heel? And why is she now on Raw instead of SmackDown? What the hell is going on? I don't get it. Least important moment ever.
I'm going to second that. That was the least important moment. We can sweep that one. I mean, Jesus Christ. We've seen the promo so many times. I mean, I understand putting it on Raw because they want to change her to Raw, but we don't need to see the same content over and over again. They basically took the promo she did last week and cut out some of it. And, you know, the thing about this promo is that it starts the same every time with the sigh and the here we go, and it ends the same every time. And it's worse that Michael Cole sets it up at the announce desk, and then just egregious that we have the ring announcer. But segment-wise, just for that show alone, the fact that they even involved that was a waste of time, in my opinion, because we've seen it so many times. And, you know, it's just, especially now that we know where they're going with it, and I think we had a feeling where they were going with it at the time, it just wasn't important. It doesn't seem like that her coming back is going to shake up any major storyline, so it's not really any significance whatsoever, except for the fact that it establishes that she's now on Raw for whatever reason that we're not going to find out about. So that closes out our awards, man. You got anything else that you want to give any kind of nod to that you saw, or do you want to move on to trivia?
Let's do some trivia.
Alrighty. Get into that.
Let me go ahead and fail this question.
So, okay, and the question is, who won the 2000 King of the Ring tournament?
Ooh. 2000. Was it The Rock?
No.
Told you I was going to fail the.
Still go, man. You got a couple more guesses.
Oh, I can keep guessing. Triple H.
No, he won in 96. Or actually, 95, I believe.
Oh, 2000. Could it had been Kurt Angle?
That is correct. It is Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle won the King of the Ring tournament in 2000. I'll be honest with you. When I first looked at this, I was like, oh, it was Billy Gunn. But no, Billy Gunn won it in 1999. Kurt Angle had that amazing rookie year and won it in 2000. And, you know, he was off to the races with his career after that. So, other than that, man, that's our show for the week, I think.
On. That was great.
Yep, I think we covered a lot. You actually answered the trivia question right after realizing what year I was talking about.
Yeah, I was just wondering if he had been around yet, or if he started in 2001. I couldn't remember.
Yeah. The Rock actually never won the King of the Ring tournament. Triple H won it in 95 or 6. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I should know. And then we had Billy Gunn win it in 99. And that never took, you know,
yeah,
Gunn
it
never
seems like a
took
strange
off.
winner.
Yeah, they really wanted to push him, and then they got him winning at 99. They put him up, rubbed him with The Rock in a program for the summer. The Rock buried him in a promo. They ended up having to take Billy Gunn off TV for a while, brought him back as the one Billy Gunn rather than Mr. Ass. And he never really was the same after that. The Rock really hurt him in that. They should not have put him with The Rock. Because The Rock was so good at promos that if you don't have somebody that can go up against him with the promos, and he's just going to bury you.
Yeah, he's always needed help in that realm, too. He can't hold a promo on his own.
Yeah, but he was always a hell of a worker and a hell of an athlete for him. But
looks great, too. You know, all the women always, you know, screamed when he came out. So, good-looking dude.
Exactly. But other than that, man, we're all finished up for this week in review show.
What a week.
Yeah.
What a Sunday with Backlash, and what a Monday Night Raw afterwards.
Yep. So we're going to be working on some things coming up here for the show. We're going to do some watch-alongs. I'm going to do some solo watch-alongs on some Attitude Era stuff. We're also going to do the retro shows I've been promising you guys. I sincerely promise me and Kyle have been working on it. We're just trying to make it as perfect as we can for you because we don't want to release something that you're not going to like, but we know that you will like it once we get done with it. We'll have our regular Monday Night Raw review every week, a regular SmackDown review every week. We'll have our weekend review probably Wednesdays of every week. Watch-alongs at least once a week if I can get it done. And then Chris and I will also be doing another segment on the weekends. Not entirely sure what it's going to be, but it's going to have something to do with fan questions as well as ups and downs of the week. You know, things that actually were great and things we could have done without. So it's almost like doing the awards, but more on a bigger scale. Kyle and I are also working on a lot of stuff, and, you know, we're working hard here trying to put some content out for you guys. So we really appreciate you guys subscribing and leaving the reviews you have been doing. Please hang with us. We're on all podcast platforms, so it ain't hard to find us. We're also on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE. Kyle also has a Twitter handle as well. What is that, Kyle?
It's at Kobe_Kyle. That's like Kobe as in Kobe Bryant. KOBE_Kyle. Come holla at your boy.
All righty. And we're going to be, you know, ramping up the coverage here coming up soon and really zeroing in on what we want to be as a show. And I think it's going to be something exciting for all you guys. One of the things that we've been kind of held up with a lot lately is that, you know, I work in the commercial pool business. I mentioned I work for the government. I got people bothering me every day, so I get up early in the morning to do my job. I'm tied up all day. I come to do this, end up doing it real late at night. I'm very fatigued. So by the end of May, that's going to be done, and we're going to be able to really hit the ground running with this show. So we really want the community to be there for it because it's going to be great. Other than that, leave us a review if you see us on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you're on. And I got nothing else for you guys except for the fact that I do want to let you know what I'm going to be doing tonight after I leave here.
I think I'm going to go to the nearest nudie bar and have a drink.
And what are you going to be doing, Kyle? Because I'll be at the nudie bar.
Yeah, I'm just going to be sleeping. I'm going to be honest with you. It's been a long day. We just hit midnight. I'm like you, brother, man. I work a full-time shift, and then I come work another job doing this podcast with you. I enjoy the hell out of it, though. And to all the listeners out there, hey, man, we love you guys. We don't need anything else from you guys but your support. Just click the likes, share it with your friends, tell everybody.
Yep, and like I say, you know, we are open to your critique, man. So if you want to hit us up on Twitter or want to send us an email, we'll definitely take that into consideration because we know we're not perfect. We know we're new, and we know that we're trying to find our way here, but we feel like we're on the right track. We definitely got some good things in the works that we feel like everybody's going to enjoy. So don't be shy. Every time we come on, turn it up and turn it on. I think I was supposed to say that the other way around, but who the hell cares? Got anything else, Kyle?
Do both.
Yeah, just
no,
do both.
man. I just want to shout out to all my homies in Detroit, Michigan. Represent.
All right, bud. Take care, man. I got nothing else for the listeners tonight, so hope you guys all have a great night.
You too. Enjoy those titties.
Yeah, I'll enjoy them. And you guys have a great night. We'll catch you on the next show. I'll be at SmackDown, like I said, so we'll probably do the SmackDown review on Saturday. And I may do another show as well that's more of sort of, you know, like maybe 30 minutes to an hour of me describing what the experience was like in the arena. For those of you who see it on TV, you know, there's different things that happen in the arena. Obviously, you know, a lot of us have been to shows, but there's things that happen in the arena that we don't see on TV that may shed some light on something. So I'll be there. I'll take some notes. If there's anything worth mentioning, I'll be sure to get on here and share it with you guys. Other than that, I think we're good to go. Have a good night, guys.
Good night, everybody. Keep on rolling, baby.